Hey, what's good, everybody? It's your boy, See Through the Script here, and oh boy, what can I say? 2022 has started off real hot. Like, truthfully, we've seen more celebrity deaths in the headlines than we could have imagined. However, in this video, I'm going to be focusing on a specific theme amongst a majority of these death headlines. I'll be covering them in chronological order as well, just to make things a bit more cohesive. But before I get to what I believe is to be behind all this, we need to ask a simple question, that is, why are all these suicides happening in January? Immediately, this led me to asking where the word January stems from. Well, January actually got its name after the Roman god Janus, and in ancient Roman culture, Janus was a god of doorways, beginnings, and the rising and the setting of the sun. His name comes from the Latin Janus, meaning doorway, archway, or arcade. Now think about how January is the beginning of the year, right? Now, being that it's the beginning of the year, they seem to be coming in with this very harsh and dark theme of suicide so consistently throughout the month. And I honestly think that is a big part due to them wanting to lower our vibrations. I'm going to touch more on that near the end of the video, but yeah, let's carry on. So for those who may be new here, allow me to briefly explain what English Gematria is, and that is simply the practice of assigning a number to each letter in the alphabet, and once you spell out a word or a phrase, you get a numerical value. And with this system, you have four base ciphers: the English ordinal, full reduction, and then those two flipped in reverse. And with the English ordinal, it is very simple. You tie A to 1, B to 2, C to 3, D to 4, all the way to Z being the 26th letter. And then for the full reduction method, you're essentially doing the same thing. The only difference being when you get to a double-digit number, for example, K is the 11th letter, which consists of two ones. 1 plus 1 equals 2, and that means that you fully reduced that number. Last but not least, when decoding stories in the media, one must always factor in date numerology, date duration, and day or days left in the year. Those are important to further discover the hidden patterns laid before us. With all that in mind, now take a look at the gematria value of the word suicide. Now, I need you to get familiar with each and every numerical value, as it will appear in each headline I'll be going over. Now, before anybody comments, oh, you missed this or you missed that, etc., these are not the full decodes. I've decoded each of these stories in full length, which are all posted on my Instagram page at See Through the Script. Now, the last thing that I gotta mention about January, or shall I say Janus, is the fact that Janus equals suicide. And what I mean by that is the numerical value of the word Janus and suicide in 2 out of our 4 base ciphers have a match, which is in the numbers 70 in the ordinal ciphers and 34 in the reduction ciphers. And it's very fitting that all the suicides are happening during January, being named after the Roman god Janus. All right, so here is our first suicide that I had seen during the month of January amongst the celebrity world, and it's regarding Sinead O'Connor's teenage son dead by an apparent suicide. The singer blames the hospital. This is according to TMZ. However, just like I said earlier, these are not the full decodes. You can go check those out on the gram. These are just pointing out the suicide numbers in line with these stories. So look at this. Sinead O'Connor's son, he goes by the name Shane Lunny. And look how Shane Lunny equals 43 and 47, just like suicide equaling 34 and 47, 34, 43 being reflections of each other. Now, the next suicide story that came and popped up on my radar came from CNN regarding the CEO of MARTA, Atlanta Transportation Service, dies by suicide. Apparently, this gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Parker actually jumped in front of a train and Suicide equals 34, and CEO of Marta equals 43. The Reflections, like we just saw earlier, and he actually died at the age of 56, and CEO of Marta equals 56, which is interesting. Now, the next suicide story that we heard about in the month of January, or shall we say Janus, is regarding Regina King's son, Ian Alexander Jr., dies by suicide. He cared so deeply. And Ian's birthday was on January 19th, which is written 1/19. Ian committed suicide 2 days after that. Taken how the son who commits suicide has the perfect birthday numerology for the cause of his death. Moving on, we have the story of Michael Madsen's son, Hudson, dead in a suspected suicide, and this occurred on January 24th, 2022, which has lesser numerology of 47. Hudson Madsen equals 47, and suicide equals 47. These both being in the reduction ciphers, again tying perfectly to the suicide code. Next, we have the passing of Peter Robbins, voice of Charlie Brown, dead at the age of 65 from, you guessed it, suicide. And Peter committed suicide on January 25th, leaving 340 days in the year, and suicide equals 34 in full reduction, as we've seen before. And with the rules of numerology, zeros are null, leaving us with the value of 34. Next, we have the mayor of city near DC found dead from, you guessed it, suspected suicide. And this individual goes by the name Kevin Ward. And Kevin committed suicide on the same day as Peter Robbins, being January 25th. And it's the same code being run again. The day leaving 340 days in the year, and suicide equals 34. You could see the connection. Now, the second last one that we have is a Walking Dead cast member who goes by the name of Moses J. Mosley, dead at the age of 31, and cops say that it's another suspected suicide. And what's to notice here is the date duration from Moses's 31st birthday to his death. That's December 23rd, 2021 to January 26, 2022 is a span of 34 days, just like we've seen before. Suicide equals 34. Now, last but definitely not least, we have the death of Chelsea Christ, former Miss USA, dying at the age of 30. And what's to note about her ritualistic suicide death headline is the fact that her full name, Chelsea Corinne Christ, equals 119, just like suicide equals 119. So you guys can definitely see how all four numbers in the word suicide in the four base ciphers have come into play, those being 70, 34, 119, and 47. And one must ask themselves, what is really going on around your world? Like, how could you have all these stories regarding the same theme of death passing over your head and not taking a glance? So that's just something you should be considering. And I do want to say RIP to everybody that I have discussed throughout this video. However, we're not done just yet. I do want to give you guys my conclusion as to this whole, scenario that we're witnessing and theme of suicide deaths in the month of January. And outside of all the esoteric discoveries that were presented, I genuinely believe one of the main reasons why these headlines regarding suicides are dropping back to back is to further lower the vibrations of the masses during the time of the pandemic. Considering the topic of mental health has been running rampant throughout the pandemic and even beforehand, it's just fitting that during a time of isolation and lack of social connection is leading a lot of people down the path path of loneliness, which often leads to depression, affecting one's mental health, leading to the worst case scenario being suicide. And it's very much worth noting that in Gematria, the words suicide and mental health both hold the values of 119 and 47. Very interesting match. Also, something to consider is how the average person who's already on the path to loneliness and maybe even suicide keeps hearing about these wealthy or famous people with status committing suicide. It might lead one to believe that if they would even do it, having all of that fame or wealth, why wouldn't they just commit suicide? In reality, I hope anybody who listens to this video doesn't think like that. And if you are dealing with any sorts of mental health issues, reach out to a family member or a friend or someone that you could, help and cope with. Don't try to fight it like all on your own. I'm really not trying to speak on no corny stuff. That's just really what it is. And stay strong, because the bigger battle is just truly not over. Other than that, y'all, I still want to say RIP to each and every person who I've covered throughout this video. And like always, I can't prove if the deaths are real or fake, but I damn sure can prove a numerical pattern when I see one. So if y'all learned anything from the video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep sharing the knowledge and get the rest of the world on it. But it's your boy Script, and it's been real. I'm out of here. Peace.